The shocking truth, how a cleaning lady broke 6-year-old twins' silence at a millionaire's home. In the heart of the affluent Eastwood neighborhood, behind towering gates and manicured hedges, stood the mansion of Charles Thorne, renowned for its opulence and notorious for its dark secrets. The polished marble floors echoed with whispers of past events, festive parties, clandestine meetings, and the unsolved disappearance of staff that had sent chills down the spines of those beneath the glimmering chandeliers. But today, all eyes were on Eva, a humble cleaning lady with an unassuming background, who unknowingly cradled discord in her hands. As Eva pushed her cart through the sprawling halls, shadows danced along the walls, teasing her with every creak of the century-old floors. She kept her head down, focusing on the task at hand, but her world turned upside down when she heard the unmistakable giggles of 6-year-old twins, Lucy and Max. Their laughter sliced through the heavy silence, igniting a spark of curiosity that sent her heart racing. What could such innocent sounds be hiding? Just hours earlier, she'd overheard hushed conversations between the Thornes. Phrases like protocol, and it's done floated ominously in the air. Eva felt her breath catch as a prickle of fears surged down her spine. Those twins hadn't spoken a word in years, had been feared to have locked themselves away in a silence born out of tragedy. The thought twisted her stomach. She had to know more. The clock ticked incessantly, a rhythm like a countdown. As she tidied up the playroom adorned with toys untouched for too long, a peculiar feeling crept over her. Maybe they were finally ready to break free from the chains of their silence before she could convince herself to turn back. A soft sob echoed from behind a door, sending icy fingers down her back. Her heart raced as curiosity began to eclipse her fear. What was happening behind that closed door? Did she dare to find out? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With her heart pounding, Eva creaked open the door to the twins' room. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Lucy and Max sat huddled on a plush rug, their eyes wide, reflecting a mix of fear and hope. Could it be? Could this simple cleaning lady, just there for a job, be the key to unleashing the twins' long-buried truths? The camera of uncertainty trained on her as she took a step closer, breaths held in collective anticipation. What would she uncover? And were the shadows really whispering her name? The air clung to Eva like a heavy fog, thick with unspoken words and unshed tears. Every instinct told her to leave, but the desperate look in the twins' eyes anchored her in place. She took a shaky breath, willing her heart to slow as she searched for her voice. "What's wrong?" she asked, her tone as gentle as she could muster under the pressure. At the sound of her question, Lucy flinched, her tiny hands clenching tighter around Max. The boy peered at Eva with an intensity so fierce, it felt like he was trying to weigh her soul. Seconds passed, heavy and laden with uncertainty. "They know," Lucy whispered, her voice barely more than a breath, just loud enough for them to hear. "Who knows what?" Eva pressed, heart pounding, feeling the weight of her role in this unfolding drama. Max's little face scrunched in apprehension. "The shadows, they say things." His voice quivered. Eva glanced around the room, noting the large windows draped in dark, heavy curtains that seemed to swallow the sunlight. "What do they say?" "It's a secret," Lucy murmured, her eyes darting toward the door. Eva sensed the fear spiral within her, encasing the room in a shroud of dread. "Secrets aren't meant to be kept," Eva urged. "You can tell me. I want to help." A flicker of hope illuminated their features momentarily before the shadows returned, wrapping around them once more. "They said you can make it stop," Max added, glancing down at the plush rug, voice wavering. Eva didn't understand. "Make what stop?" "The bad men." Lucy's voice was barely a whisper, but the chilling weight of her words gripped Eva tight. They come at night. The trembling of Lucy's chin mirrored Eva's own rising panic. She felt like she'd stepped into a nightmare, yet she pushed through. Why don't you tell your parents? The twins exchanged glances filled with something akin to betrayal. They don't listen, Max said. They just think we're being silly. Eva's stomach twisted. What had happened in this house for the twins to wrap their voices in such silence? A sudden bang echoed through the mansion, jolting them all. The sound reverberated like a gunshot, and fear seeped through the walls. Hide! Eva hissed, instinctively taking a step closer to the twins, guarding them with her presence. But they didn't need convincing. They jumped to their feet and dashed behind a massive, ornate dresser, eyes wide and fearful. She could hear their tiny breaths, quick and unsteady. Eva's heart raced as she moved cautiously towards the door, peeking through the crack. The hallway beyond was unnaturally quiet, a stillness that felt ominous. Her mind raced with thoughts of what might happen next. It was far from over. In that moment, she realized she was teetering on the edge of a very dark truth. The twins were not the only ones trapped in silence. The entire house held secrets, ones bound up in shadows, weaving a tale that reached far beyond childhood fears. Just then, she caught a glimpse of a figure cloaked in darkness, standing at the far end of the hall. In her heart, she knew this was only the beginning. What awaited in the silence? Would the truth finally come to light, or would the shadows claim them all? Before she could react, the figure vanished. What had she stumbled into? Who were the bad men watching them? As dread settled like a stone in her gut, she realized she had to find out what darkness lurked within the Thorns' home. But at what cost? Eva's heart thudded in her chest, each beat echoing the urgency of the moment. The figure at the hall's end had vanished, but its presence lingered like a chilling whisper in her mind. Shadows crept deeper into the corners of the mansion, drawing her attention back to the twins. "Stay quiet," she whispered, pressing a finger to her lips. They nodded, wide-eyed, knowing the gravity of their situation. The danger was real, more tangible than a child's nightmare. The old wooden floors creaked under her weight as she shifted her stance, eyes scanning the dimly lit hallway for any hint of movement. She sought out the source of the bang, the last sound that rocked the house like a thunderclap. The air felt dense, charged with an unnameable tension. "Eva!" Max's small voice broke through the silence, barely above a whisper. "Is it gone?" She considered her response carefully. Could she afford to give them false hope? I think so. We should be safe for now. But we need to be ready. With that, she turned her attention back to the hallway, drawn toward the door at the far end. It stood ajar, a sliver of darkness pulsating behind it. The twins watched her, breaths held, as her instinct kicked in. No cowardice could create change. She had to know what lay ahead. Creeping toward the door, she felt the cold air surge from within the dim room beyond. She paused, sensing the oppressive heaviness that emanated from beyond the threshold. What could possibly be hiding in there? She mustered her courage and pushed the door open just a crack, peering inside. Her heart dropped. The room was untouched by time, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. Dust motes hovered in the air, aglow with a spectral light. But it wasn't the decor that set her nerves alight. It was the sight that stripped her breaths away. There, scrawled along the walls in frantic handwriting, were the very words that sent shivers through her spine. "They are watching." She stepped back, cold dread coiling tighter in her gut. This was no ordinary house. It held dread-filled secrets that coiled around it like a serpent, ready to strike. But before she could turn back, a soft noise invaded the silence, a low shuffle, followed by what sounded like muffled voices. Her heart raced. What if it was the bad men? What if they were here right now? "Stay here," she told the twins urgently, her voice a tight whisper. They nodded, eyes wide with fear, but she could see them fighting the urge to follow. Steeling herself, she leaned closer to the doorframe, breath shallow. Beyond it, silhouettes moved, but she couldn't make out details. One voice cut through the darkness, authoritative and cold. "They'll never believe the truth." Eva strained to listen, but the rest was lost in a tangled, sinister murmur. The blood rushed in her ears as questions flooded her mind. Who were they? What truth could possibly hold such power over these children? Feeling a jolt of adrenaline, she lifted her foot to step across the threshold, intuition screaming at her to back away. That S when she heard it get her. The words sliced through the air like a blade. Panic gripped her. She had to act before they realized she was there. Everything tightened the air, her throat, her resolve. Run! She hissed at the twins, pulling them from their hiding place. They bolted, hearts racing, drawing closer to her. As they sprinted away from the door, the knocking from the other side grew louder, aggressive. The shadows seemed to pulse around them, a dark reminder of the lurking danger in the mansion. They had to escape, but where could they go? The house felt like a labyrinth, and those whispers promised only further darkness. Eva grasped the twins' hands tightly. Follow me. They raced down the hallway, every step echoing fear and urgency. What would they find? In the deepening gloom, a single thought ignited within her. It wasn't just the shadows they needed to escape. It was the truth lurking in the heart of this darkened mansion. When would the nightmare end? And would they uncover the terrible reality before it was too late? As they sprinted down the hallway, the twins' small hands felt warm and soft in Eva's grip, a stark contrast to the cold dread settling over her. She could hear the muffled voices behind them, rising in excitement, almost as if they were hungry for her to be caught. The sinister chant of "Get her" echoed in her mind, a mantra that turned her blood to ice. They raced onward, heartbeats pounding for survival. The mansion stretched endlessly before them, jagged shadows draping over every corner. Disorientation clawed at her. She needed to find a way out somewhere safe. The walls shimmered with memories embedded in dust and decay, whispering secrets just beyond reach. Would the twins fall victim to them like so many before? Through here! Eva shouted, veering to the left into a narrow staircase leading down into the bowels of the home. The air became dense, almost suffocating, as she pushed through the door and descended into darkness. She had to hope that the danger wouldn't follow them down. With each step, creaks and groans echoed around her, as if the house itself were alive and objecting to their presence. The twins stumbled in her wake, fearful breaths mingling with the scent of damp stone. The dim light from the single bulb hanging overhead swung precariously, creating a strobe of shadows that danced along the walls like specters. The basement felt like a tomb. What if they find us, Eva? Whispered Max, eyes wide with unshed tears, his voice cracking under the weight of his fear. We won't let that happen, she insisted, her voice unwavering. We just need to keep moving. At the bottom of the staircase, they found themselves in a large, empty room. It was littered with old furniture, forgotten and draped in dust, but against one wall stood a tall, antique wardrobe, its doors slightly ajar. A flicker of hope ignited within her. Could they hide inside? Get in! She hissed, nudging the twins toward the wardrobe. They hesitated, torn between obedience and terror. Eva, what if it's dark inside? Elise's voice trembled as she glared at the wardrobe, clearly afraid of what might lurk in its depths. We don't have time to argue, she snapped. We'll be safe in there. Just trust me. As the twins climbed inside, she pushed them in quickly, listening intently for any sign that the pursuers were closing in. The wardrobe crammed them tight together, small breaths muffled in the crush of their bodies. Eva paused only a moment before shutting the doors. The darkness enveloped them, but it was safer than being exposed. She leaned against the cool wooden frame, trying to calm the frantic thudding of her heart. Silence blanketed the room, but it wouldn't last long. Her instincts screamed that they were still being hunted, the looming threat pressing in on all sides. Shifting her weight, Eva pressed an ear against the wardrobe, hoping to catch any signs of danger. That S when it happened. A heavy thud echoed in the basement, followed by the sound of footsteps approaching. Each heartbeat felt louder, a race against time. Did you hear that? Whispered a tiny voice from within the wardrobe. Yes, Eva whispered back, the chill running down her spine connecting her to the twins' fear. Did they find us? No. Not yet. But the weight of those words felt heavier with each passing moment. The footsteps drew closer, and suddenly there was laughter, a twisted, vindictive sound that skittered across the walls, making her stomach churn. A fateful realization washed over her like ice water. They weren't just playing at finding them, they were enjoying the hunt. "Get ready," she murmured to the twins. "If they come in here, we need to be ready to fight back." Just then, the wardrobe door creaked, the shadow of a figure looming just outside. The thrill of terror gripped Eva's heart, and she braced herself for what was to come. Could she protect the twins from the true horrors lying in this mansion? Were they prepared to face the darkness head-on, or would the truth consume them whole? The man's laughter echoed through the chamber, and Eva knew one thing for certain: the nightmare was only beginning. The wardrobe's wooden frame pressed against Eva's back, splinters digging in as she held her breath, trying to silence the pounding in her chest. The laughter grew louder, swirling around her like a storm. She could visualize the figure lurking outside, the glint of malicious excitement in their eyes. Desperation clawed inside her. She had to protect the twins. "They're coming!" she hissed, her voice barely above a whisper. Max squeezed Elise's hand tighter, his small frame trembling against hers. "I want to go home," he whimpered, his voice cracking, and she could practically feel his fear radiating through the darkness. "They will find us." Elise's sharp whisper cut through the silence. "What if they take us away?" With each laugh that echoed from above, the walls seemed to close in further. Eva's instinct was screaming, "Go! Now!" But where could they go? The basement felt like a cage, suffocating and endless. The door creaked again, a slow and deliberate sound. It sent a jolt of cold dread through Eva. Panic surged as she imagined the figure peering inside, eyes wide with sadistic pleasure just waiting to see them. "Stay quiet. Please stay quiet," she breathed, her fingers trembling against the wardrobe doors. Suddenly, the door swung wide open with a groan, revealing a tall, shadowy silhouette against the dim light. Eva saw nothing of the figure's features, just darkness and an insatiable hunger for fear. "Where are you, little mice?" The voice slithered down toward them, each syllable dripping with contempt. Eva felt her heart drop. "No," she muttered under her breath, panic widening her eyes. Footsteps echoed as they entered the room, heavy and deliberate. Something metallic glinted in the light from the stairs, the gleam of a knife, a cruel extension of this man's enjoyment. The laughter faded, replaced by an eerie silence that raised goosebumps along Eva's skin. "Maybe this place is just too big for you," the figure taunted. "But don't worry. I will help you find your way out." That unsettling grin creased the voice, and in that moment, Eva realized they were being played with just like pawns in a game. The twins stiffened, their breaths halting in unison, and Eva's throat tightened. She thought of pushing the wardrobe doors open and charging out, ready to fight, but she knew the odds were against them. "Play along," she whispered to the twins, her voice low and steady, though her heart raced faster than a runaway train. "We'll wait for the right moment to escape." Footsteps shuffled closer, coming to rest in front of the wardrobe. A breath caught in her throat as the man began to speak again. "You three are perfect for my collection, oh yes, perfect." Eva's stomach twisted, the unfeeling dread returning. They weren't merely a game to him, they were something far more sinister. Without warning, the figure reached for the wardrobe, and the golden glint of the knife caught Eva's eye. It felt like the whole world slowed, and she could hear the terrible thrumming of her heart pounding a deafening beat. "Now," she commanded, "on three, we jump?" 1, 2, but before she could count to 3, a loud crash rang through the basement, the sound of breaking glass resonating from somewhere in the dark corners of the mansion. The figure froze, the knife pausing mid-air, confusion flickering across his shadowy form. What was that? Eva and the twins exchanged glances, unsure if they had been granted a moment of fortune, or if disaster awaited them. "Go!" Eva hissed, the word erupting from her mouth like a lifeline. They flung open the doors, pouring out of the wardrobe in a mass of limbs in sheer panic as adrenaline surged through them. They had to escape. They had to run. But just as they darted past the figure, the man laughed, a sound rippling through the air. "You think you can get away that easily? The fun is just starting." And then the room erupted into chaos, footsteps barreling after them, shadows twisting in the dim light. As Eva led the twins up the staircase, desperation driving their feet, one question gnawed at her mind: what were they truly running from? And what awaited them in the dark recesses of this twisted mansion? With a pounding heart, and no end in sight, she dashed into the unknown, praying for a glimmer of hope amid the darkness. But what they would discover next would change everything. The moment they burst through the basement door, a blast of cold air hit them like a wall. The hallway stretched before them, dimly lit, shadows dancing in the corners, a labyrinth designed to ensnare. Eva felt the twins' hands slip from hers briefly before they grasped her shirt again, their little fingers digging in. She had to keep moving. They had to get out. "Where do we go?" Max gasped, breathless and panicked. "Just follow me," Eva urged, her voice a raw whisper carried on the wind of adrenaline. They sprinted down the long corridor, the floorboards creaking beneath them, echoing their frantic escape. Each step resonated like a drumbeat, shaking off the lingering laughter that chased them from the room. Suddenly, the lights flickered overhead, leaving them in brief darkness, and Eva's heart dropped. "Keep going!" she shouted, her urgency turning the air electric, fueling their little legs as they pushed through their fear. The twins kept glancing back, eyes wide with terror, but amidst the overwhelming dread, an instinctual drive propelled them forward into the darkened hallway. And then they stumbled upon a door, slightly ajar, revealing a sliver of light like a beacon. "Here!" Eva gasped. She threw the door open, her heart racing faster than her legs could carry her. The room was cluttered, filled with dust-covered furniture and cobwebs hanging like forgotten memories. A small window was cracked open, allowing a thin stream of moonlight to illuminate a patch on the floor. "Hide!" Eva urged, leading them behind a large couch. She crouched low, heart hammering in her chest. Their breaths were shallow, the silence palpable. Footsteps reverberated again, slow and deliberate, creeping nearer. Eva exchanged quick glances with the twins. They could feel the weight of dread in the air. Would the figure find them here? Would they be taken, after all? The door creaked open, and the silhouette of the figure materialized, a hulking mass against the threshold, knife glinting ominously in hand. "I can smell fear, it's intoxicating," he rasped, stepping into the room. Eva swallowed hard, urgency coursing through her veins, begging her to act. She glanced at the twins. They were visibly trembling, but their eyes held a glimmer of something stronger than fear, determination. "Now!" she whispered fiercely, urging them to move. In a heartbeat they burst from their hiding spot, launching themselves wildly toward the open window. "Jump!" Eva shouted, her voice breaking through the trepidation that threatened to consume them. They scrambled up to the sill, and as Eva lifted Max, she could feel the rush of adrenaline surge through her. The figure's mocking laughter bounced off the walls, louder now than before. "You can't outrun me! I'm everywhere!" She pushed Max through the window, then reached for Elise, her heart racing. But just as she pulled her up, a strong hand clamped down on her shoulder. The grip was iron, cold with malice. "Where do you think you're going?" he growled, jerking her back hard. Eva twisted, ready to fight, but fire extinguished when she locked eyes with him. His laughter echoed in her head. "You're not in control here." But maybe she could flip the script. Eva yanked her foot up, slamming it against the figure, kicking with all the strength she could muster. He stumbled back, surprise flickering across his face, and she catapulted Elise through the window. "Go!" she yelled, determination flooding her voice. Elise landed outside with a thud, and Max reached for her, their small hands grasping in the tangled darkness. Eva pushed herself through the window next, urgency clawing at her spine. But just as she lunged, she felt the crushing grip return, panic washing over her. "No!" she screamed, twisting in a desperate attempt to break free. And then her world shattered. With one swift motion, he pulled her back inside. The darkness swallowed her as the door slammed shut. Below, she could hear the twins' cries mingling with the shouts of the unseen threats lurking in the mansion. Eva's heart sank. She was separated from them, alone. What was Happening to her? What was going to happen to them? The thought paralyzed her as she fought against the darkness that enveloped her. And then there it was, the worst kind of silence, a sound that echoed louder than the screams. What had she unleashed? As she struggled, the urgency to escape bubbled beneath the surface. But where was her strength? As shadows closed in, her thoughts churned with a chilling realization. She must face the horrors in this mansion. But could she withstand the truth of it all? Nothing could prepare her for what lay ahead as the darkness whispered secrets only the walls knew. The air felt thick and suffocating as Eva struggled against the grip that pulled her deeper into the darkened room. Panic surged through her, a frantic pulse that screamed for action. She got a glimpse of the twins, their faces marked by fear and confusion as they faded from her view outside. Eva! Max's voice echoed from below, blending with Elise's whimpers. The sound cut through her, a shard of ice that reminded her of what was at stake. She couldn't let them down. "Let me go!" she shouted, twisting, kicking, but the figure laughed, a terrifying sound, rough and guttural, ripping through the silence. "Such spirit! But I think you'll learn your place soon enough." With her heart racing, Eva closed her eyes, focusing on the burning sensation in her muscles. The dim light flickered, illuminating the figure momentarily. His face, twisted with delight, filled her with renewed fury. That twisted grin would not define her fate. Using the surprise of that sudden illumination, she elbowed backward, connecting with his stomach. It wasn't too much, but she felt him loosen his hold just enough. Seizing the moment, she kicked once more, this time harder. He grunted, allowing her the precious second she needed to dart out of reach. Scrambling into the shadows, she felt along the wall until she found the corner of a nearby table. Its hard edge pressed against her palm, and she gripped it, breathing deeply. "Think, Eva," she muttered to herself, grasping at straws of thought as fear clawed at her mind. The sound of his footsteps brought her back to the moment. He started toward her, slowly, deliberately, savoring the hunt. "You think you're clever. But you're just delaying the inevitable," he taunted, his voice slithering through the room. Suddenly, the lights overhead flickered again, brighter this time, illuminating the space, and in that brief moment, Eva caught sight of a heavy vase tucked on a shelf. A plan formed in her mind. She waited, breath held tight, until he was just a breath away. Then she lunged, grabbing the vase and swinging it with all her might. It connected with his shoulder, sending him stumbling back into the furniture with a crash. Eva wasted no time, she dashed for the door. Pushing it open, she flung herself into the next room, heart pounding like a war drum. The space was filled with dust and decay, but it didn't matter, she had to keep moving. Behind her, she could hear him regaining his balance, his heavy breathing echoing in the silence. "Come back!" he called, a dangerous sweetness lacing his words. "You can't escape me." Eva clutched the back of her shirt, clenching her fists. Just ahead, she spotted another doorway, a narrow one lined with broken furniture. Without thinking, she rushed toward it, praying it would lead her closer to the twins. Moments felt like hours as she slipped through the passage, the walls closing in around her, shadows creeping closer. The adrenaline continued to surge, pushing her faster. But as she reached the next room, her heart lurched. This space was filled with framed photographs, all featuring smiling families. Who were these people? What had happened to them? And then she saw it, a large, framed picture of a family that seemed oddly familiar. It was a picture of the twins smiling bright next to a woman who resembled Eva. Froze. Everything in her screamed to run, but the connection crashed over her, electrifying her senses. Just as the cold fingers of realization gripped her mind, the door behind her creaked, the figure emerging from the shadows, a devilish grin splitting his face. "No more games, Eva. We have so much to discuss." Panic ignited once more, and she backed away, the picture falling from her grip, shattering into 1,000 pieces. A frozen moment hung heavy in the air as the shards gleamed ominously on the floor. And then, she let out a cry, a raw, visceral sound that felt like it echoed against every wall of the mansion. "Where are the twins?" But his smile only widened. "They're my guests now." And just like that, the walls began to close in again, What connection did he have to the twins? Eva felt her world tilt, each piece of the puzzle slipping away as uncertainty loomed larger. What truth lay buried within this mansion, and could she possibly peel away the layers before it consumed them all? The air thickened further as Eva's heart hammered against her ribcage, an urgent warning pulse racing through her. The darkness seemed to swallow sound, but for the rapid thump of her heartbeat. She had to concentrate, to think, to fight against the panic clawing at her throat. The figure stood there, his delight palpable, like a hungry beast savoring the scent of its prey. "You've stumbled into something much bigger than you realize," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "Your struggle is futile. Just watch, your precious twins are only the beginning of the transformation." Eva's mind raced. Transformation? What did he mean? Just the sight of that shattered photo littering the ground made her want to scream again. Who were those people? And why did that woman look so familiar? She forced herself to breathe, each inhalation inching closer to clarity. "What did you do to them?" She stood firm, fighting to keep her voice steady, unwilling to allow fear to break her resolve. He chuckled, a low, foreboding sound that raised the hairs on her arms. "Let's just say I've opened their eyes to the true nature of this world. They'll understand much sooner than you." With that, he lunged forward. Eva pivoted on her heel and sprinted away, dodging him by mere inches. Her feet pounded against the wooden floor, each step a desperate prayer that led her toward another door, a chance at freedom. Behind her, she could hear him growling, his frustration creeping into his voice. "You can't hide from what's in your blood. It'll catch up to you." Eva darted through the newly opened doorway, the stale air hitting her face with a gust of memory's faded perfumed wallpaper, threads of past laughter echoing in shadows. A staircase loomed ahead, spiraling upward like a dark tunnel. As she raced up the stairs, her past clashed with her present, memories and fears intermingling. She could hear Max and Elisa's laughter bouncing around in her head, floating just out of reach. The thought kept her going, pushing her legs harder than they'd ever moved before. Reaching the top, she skidded to a halt, breathless. The hallway stretched before her, doors lined up like sentinels, each one hiding secrets she had to uncover. Which way to go? "Pick a door, Eva!" That agonizing taunt echoed in her head. She could sense him following her, a predator stalking its prey. She gritted her teeth and turned to her right, thrusting her shoulder against a heavy wooden door. It creaked open to reveal a room swallowed by darkness, a stark contrast to what lay outside. Ropes hung from the ceiling, swaying slightly, and her heart sank. Something sinister lay ahead. She flicked on her phone's flashlight, illuminating the room just enough to see what appeared to be a makeshift therapy space, filled with old photos stuck to the walls, each depicting families smiling down from grinning frames. But there was something wrong. Each face was twisted, fingers clawing at the air, cries of desperation carved into their features. Her breath hitched as she stepped further inside, searching for anything to help her understand this nightmare. The tighter the knots in her stomach grew, the more she felt the presence behind her, a weight of malice creeping in, chilling her to the bone. "Step away from there, Eva!" The figure's voice sliced through the air, and she spun around, eyes wide. He had found her. "What are you doing? Let them go. You don't have to do this." Her words came out in a rush, brimming with desperation and defiance. He smiled again, that infuriating grin. "You're charming when you're scared, but you're out of time." He stepped back, gesturing to the wall. "They're waiting for you forever." The shadows shifted around her, the laughter of twins echoing in her mind, but this time it felt darker, heavier. Reality blurred as panic set in. She had to face this monster before it swallowed everyone she loved. The room held its breath, and even knew she couldn't let it consume her. With a surge of bravery, she lunged toward the nearest window, the faint trails of moonlight barely cutting through the darkness. If she was going to end this, she needed answers, even if it meant confronting the truth. But as she turned, ready to confront him with newfound strength, she felt the air change, thickening around her, suffocating her in an embrace of dread. Suddenly, from behind a door behind him, a piercing scream echoed through the mansion, shattering the silence. "Max?" Fear twisted in her chest, and she glanced back at the figure, now shrouded in shadows, eyes glinting with infuriating delight. Now, the real game begins. What awaited her behind those closed doors? And would she be brave enough to find out? Eva's breath quickened as the sound of Max's scream echoed in her ears, slicing through the thick air like a knife. Time warped as her thoughts swirled, each chaotic idea crashing against the other. The figure, this monster, was reveling in her torment, clearly feeding off her desperation. She shook her head in disbelief. "You're lying. They're just kids. You can't." But her words faltered, uncertainty creeping into her voice as memories of those blurred faces returned, their agonized expressions haunting her from the walls. "Lying? Oh, dear Eva," he taunted, taking a step closer, his shadow stretching before him like a living thing. "You have no idea what I'm capable of. I've pulled the very fibers of their innocence apart, exposing the raw flesh of truth beneath. They're no longer just children, they're destined for greatness beneath my guidance." Eva's heart raced, a drum-pounding chaos. Her mind flung her back to the last time she'd seen Max and Elise so carefree, so full of life. The image morphed into a nightmare, their sweet laughter twisted into cries of torment. How could she save them? "What do you want from us?" she demanded, forcing fierceness into her voice. He smirked, his eyes glinting with malicious delight. "Ah, Eva, you see, it's not about what I want. It's about what they need. A new reality, one far removed from your mundane existence. It will change everything, it already has. And you? You'll be the catalyst." A shiver raced down her spine. Catalyst? The word felt like thunder rumbling in the distance, a storm brewing. "You're insane." "Insanity is merely a perception," he replied, a manic light dancing in his eyes. "Embrace the horror, and you'll find clarity." With every beat of her racing heart, the shadows around her tightened like a noose. Eva glanced once more towards the door from which Max's voice had come, dread pooling in her gut. Could it be too late? The figure stepped forward, closing the space between them. "You can't save them, Eva. They're already mine." "No!" Anger rippled through her, fueling her defiance. She took a step back, searching the dark corners for a way out. "I will not let you." Just then, a sharp crash reverberated through the mansion, a violent sound slicing through the atmosphere. Like a thief in the night, it grabbed her attention, spinning her around. The door behind him flung open, hinges crying out in protest, revealing a flash of movement before it slammed shut again. "Max!" she shouted, her voice cracking as she darted toward the door. There had to be a way to reach her children. "No! Don't!" He lunged for her, but she sidestepped, a wild surge of adrenaline propelling her forward. The door loomed larger than life, a barrier between her and her twins. As she reached out for the handle, the shadows contorted, tendrils of darkness stretching, wrapping around her wrists like a cold iron clasp. She fought against it, struggling to free herself. The scream echoed again, a heartbreaking sound that clawed at her soul. Drawing on every ounce of strength, Eva twisted and pulled until the grip of darkness broke, just enough for her to shove the door open, her heart pounding with urgency. Inside was a horrific sight. The room was alive with shadows stirring ominously, and in the center stood her twins, gazes dull, both staring at a darkness that writhed around them. She took in the nightmare, her heart sinking. "Max! Elise!" she cried, but their eyes didn't flicker at the sound of her voice. "See? They're already gone." The figure hissed close behind her, his breath hot against her neck. "The transformation is complete." Her breath caught, the weight of despair crashing onto her shoulders. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She had to shake them awake, to bring them back. She couldn't let this be the end. In that moment, she knew the truth was far worse than she could have ever imagined. As Eva stepped inside, she felt the darkness clawing at her skin, seeking to pull her in two. Would she risk everything to save her children, even if it meant confronting the unfathomable horrors lurking within? The moment of truth approached, and the true test of her resolve was about to begin. Would she find the courage to pull her family back from the brink, or would they all disappear into the shadows forever? The room pulsed with shadows, swirling around Max and Elise like a dark tide. Their eyes stared blankly ahead, not alive, almost as if they were caught in a trance. Fear gripped Eva's heart like a vice. Every part of her screamed to flee, yet she couldn't abandon her children. Max! Elise! She called, desperation tightening her throat. It felt like shouting into the void. The shadows writhed, and with each flicker, she saw the glint of that twisted grin behind her, the figure standing close enough to breathe down her neck. See the transformation, Eva? He taunted, stepping forward. You've arrived just in time for the grand unveiling. Your sweet children are now part of something greater, something beyond your understanding. But it wasn't the understanding she sought, it was a way to rescue them. Eva stepped closer to the twins, forcing herself to breathe. Wake up! She shouted, willing the power of her voice to penetrate the darkness. You are not lost. You're still in there. Max blinked, a flicker of recognition lighting his face like a candle in the dark. Mom? He whispered, voice trembling, pulling Elise back to the surface. What is happening? The figure smirked, shadow looming larger behind him. You're wasting your breath. They're mine, now and forever. He took a step forward, but Eva positioned herself between him and the twins, heart pounding in her ears. No! She roared, summoning strength from somewhere deep within. You will not take them! She felt the energy vibrating in the air, like electricity before a storm, each heartbeat echoing around her, resonating with the love she held for her children. In that moment she remembered the power of her love, the bond that transcended darkness, fear, and despair. She reached for her twins, grabbing their hands firmly. Max! Elise! Focus on my voice. You're with me. We have to fight. And then she pulled them toward her, the warmth of their small frames grounding her in that foreboding space. She could feel a shift, a hesitation in the shadows as they recoiled from her resolve. Listen to me. We can do this together. Their eyes flickered again, showing signs of life returning. Mom! They repeated, waking as if sleepwalking through a nightmare. With renewed strength, they gripped her hands tighter. The figure roared in anger, darkness spilling from him like restless smoke. You think love can save you? This is a battle you cannot win. But it was his battle to lose. Believe in the light! Eva shouted, and without hesitation she surged forward, propelled by every ounce of love, each tear shed, every sacrifice made for her children. A brilliant light enveloped them, bright enough to banish shadows and distort fear. The figure shrieked, twisting in agony, as the darkness that bound the twins began to shatter, retreating like mist before the rising sun. Together! Max and Elise cried, their voices harmonizing with their mother's as light erupted from their grasp. With one final burst of energy, the veil of shadows unraveled. The air hummed with iridescence, driving the darkness back until it disintegrated into nothingness. Eva felt the warmth of her children, the realization brightening their faces. You did it! You're back! Her heart raced with joy, laughter bubbling up like a spring flood after a long drought. But the moment of triumph felt precarious. A quick glance revealed the figure shaking violently on the ground, shadows dissipating around him, revealing nothing but emptiness. It's not over, he rasped, fury in his eyes now devoid of darkness. I will break you, no, Eva stated firmly, drawing strength from the twins who held her hands tightly. You're finished. We're stronger together, and we're done living in fear. With that, they turned to leave the oppressive hall. Sunlight spilled in through dilapidated windows, warming their faces, breathing life back into the air. Each step they took felt lighter, the burden of despair shedding like a snake's skin. Once outside, a new dawn patterned the horizon. They stood on the steps of the Thorns' mansion, the weight of darkness finally lifted. Do you promise, Max asked, whispering as he latched onto Eva's side, that we won't ever have to go back inside? Never again, Eva murmured, pulling them tightly against her, feeling the raw pulse of love that threaded through them. We are free. I promise. As they turned away from the mansion, the sun broke through in a riot of color, purples and golds blending seamlessly, signaling the arrival of hope. They stepped onto the path leading away from that cursed place, the weight of shadows finally behind them. Eva let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The world ahead felt bright, full of possibility, a blank canvas stretching endlessly under their feet. And the future? Together, they would paint it in every glorious color imaginable. If you love this story and want to be part of the journey of more captivating tales, you must subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't miss out on the next exclusive story that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to support the algorithm and keep our community thriving. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let us get talking. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel, so let's make our community stronger together.